My name is Erik. Hopefully by now you've seen the build process of the Supra. I run Suncoast Automotive Super-Sports. We imported this beauty about 8 weeks ago, basically the beginning of the coronavirus. We imported this one, and it was not a bad car, but we've basically given it a full once over and got it ready for delivery. So there's this idea that people can, like, these cars all over the world are beautiful and maybe only Americans beat the crap out of their cars, but that's kind of a myth. You're talking about a 25-year-old car, so pretty much anywhere you get one, they've all been driven, they've all been used, they've all been enjoyed, they've all been abused. This particular car was actually really straight. It was no Bondo, and it was a nice steel car, but you started dipping into it. Like I say, we had the issue with the engine, and then the right side of the power steering rack was blown out. Well, there's a lot of importers that would just ship the car out. A lot of these importers just bring a car in, have their detail guy go over it, maybe put new bellows boots on it to hide the leak, and ship the car. I've seen it. I've seen multiple cars that have come in rusty, multiple cars come in with bad ECUs, bad gauges, all kinds of bad stuff, and people don't address those issues. Like I said, hopefully you've seen the build process by now of this car. Bought it basically off of pictures. Car was in Australia. Used a reputable exporter there. From there, we picked the car up, picked it up at the port. It's a funny story because the car showed up. Usually it takes 2 days to clear customs. Well, this is the beginning of the coronavirus mayhem. So it actually took almost 14 days to clear customs. By the time they cleared it, the next day they were talking about shutting down ports. So I had to leave my house at 3 in the morning, drive 5 hours to Jacksonville to make sure I got there by 8 to get the car out of port, which was exciting in itself. Got the car. It was actually not a bad car to begin with. Had decent paint, but there was quite a few flaws that were overlooked. The front lip was pretty beat up. It came into port with absolutely no gas, and it barely started up, and ran pretty crappy. Had terrible exhaust on it, so I kind of chalked that up to being out of gas, why it ran so bad. Ended up tearing into the car, buying basically a new, 2 new glove box latches, new center console latch, new grab bar / oh shit handle. Basically a whole pile of new trinket parts that people don't think about when they import one of these cars. And sent it off to paint. Guy named Tommy at Paradise Auto Body in Port Charlotte did the body work and killed it. And before it was even, actually we were still doing some body work on it, I had a buyer on it. So I asked him, what do you want done to it? He basically said he wanted it stock, but he wanted the rear wiper motor eliminated and the antenna eliminated. So we covered those holes up. Ended up putting a wing on it, and did a ton of work to it. Got the body work done, got it back, put it together, and then get the exhaust on it, fire it up, put fresh gas in it, and it's still running like crap. So half hour later, we do a compression test. It's got a dead #1 cylinder. So out comes the engine that night with a car that's basically almost ready to be delivered. And ended up finding that the block that came out of it was a VVTi block, so it had a small rod motor in it, which would have been disastrous if somebody put a turbo on it. It would have lasted about 5 minutes. So we put fresh long block in it, timing belt, water pump, accessory belt, Mishimoto radiator, wired and electric fans. Basically went over it again and got to the point where we're at now, where it's basically ready to be delivered. This particular car, the right side of the power steering rack was blown out. I said, okay, we'll rebuild the rack. Well, you think about it, you can't just go to Advanced Auto Parts and buy a rack for a right-hand drive Supra. You start looking overseas and you're talking about $1,500 just to get a rack here after shipping. So luckily the seal kit that you can get from Toyota for the left-hand drive rack is the exact same seal kit for right-hand drive, but it's just you build the rack the opposite direction. The seal kit is about $150, so that's not a big deal. Pull the rack apart, find out the actual shaft in the center of the rack is littered with pits. I mean, severe pitting. So here comes a whole new fiasco. So I start looking around for a rack. So I have some people that I know online send me pictures of racks that they've had apart, and I'm thinking I can just use the center shaft out of a US rack and just flip it over. Well, no, the serrations for for the pinion are cut in the opposite direction. So that cancel that, avoid that idea. Next thing I'm trying to find, importing just a shaft. Same problem. We're in the middle of the coronavirus, so nobody wants to ship anything from Asia to the USA. So now I'm screwed again because I'm trying to find somebody to ship me a shaft, and they're again $1,500. By the time I get here, it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks. Well, I got awesome dude that's already given me a deposit on the car that wants his car. So I'm like, well, I can't do that. So I find a place called Ring Power that rebuilds hydraulic shafts. So I take the shaft down to them. Really nice guy I talked to. Yeah, we should be able to take care of it. And they did what's basically called powdered metal, metallizing the shaft. And they spray a powdered metal on through a torch, and it metallizes it. And then they machine it down back to specs, which is almost $600. But hey, got the shaft, got the rack rebuilt. So things like that, a lot of people don't take into account. They're just think, hey, I'm going to buy this car from Japan. The Japan auction's got one. It's going to cost me 18 grand. Yeah, well, you're going to end up being knee deep in a whole lot of trouble that other people take care of. You don't have to worry about it. Yeah, so the proper process to actually import a car in itself is a bit tedious as far as getting into the paying the customs broker, arranging the shipping, going to the port, getting it. That in itself is a huge to-do. But then you have the whole nother task of getting the car to the shop and getting an initial inspection on, getting it in the air, pulling the wheels off, checking the brakes, checking bushings, checking for leaks, checking for everything. You're not going to find a car right off the boat that's just a nice car you can just jump in and drive unless you pay a whole crap ton of money. I think it's going to be really expensive. So to find a car that's affordable, you're going to have to do work. That's just how it is. So, I've been doing this, literally been working on cars 30 years. ASE Master, Toyota Master, MAX certified, EPA certified for testing. So I've been there, I've done that, I know everything about it basically that you can think of. This car, it's got basically front and rear brakes were done, machined the rotors, like I said, timing belt, water pump, accessory belt, swapped the long block, did the rear main seal while it was apart, pulled the entire interior out of it, pressure washed the carpets, did the door panels, new speaker grills, we cleaned the trunk carpet, refurbed the headlights, body work, painted, refinished the cowl, refinished the wipers, installed the wing, the rear TT wing customer wanted. Basically, it was built to order for the customer, but we went over everything, all the basics, and made sure it was right and tight, and then did everything he wanted. I wasn't sure if he wanted wheels. He's picked out a set of wheels he's going to put on as soon as he gets it. So he's going to do the wheels and coilover, some other stuff to it, but he basically wants a nice stock car right now. Well, I absolutely will do it again. I have a couple that I'm looking at, potentially an R33 Skyline. Just because I've never worked on one, I've never had one, and I think it's just something I want to get out of my wheelhouse, if you will, and get into something else. But looking at a couple more Supras. I love working on Japanese cars, especially. Anybody that knows me knows I hate European cars. But especially German and English cars. There's some Swedish cars I can stand for, but Japanese cars are absolutely, that's my wheelhouse. Toyota, Honda, Nissan, some Mitsubishis, absolutely all day, every day. This is what I love working on, is especially performance Japanese. That's where we're kind of the route we're going right now. So we've got some other future projects coming in. So we're planning on actually, hopefully within the next couple of years, getting into a shop, getting either another bay where I'm at, or getting into a whole nother shop where I can install a chassis dyno and get in a little bit more of the tuning and the dyno end of it. We're looking forward to some pretty impressive builds coming up. We've got the 2J Volvo, which is my lifelong project, it seems like, but it's big turbo 2J Volvo. Should be 600, 700 horsepower. We've got the RAV4 coming up, which is going to be awesome. I can't wait for that one. It's going to be a killer little truck. We've got one of Chris's Supras, Chris at Supermarket. We're going to be working on one of his. And got a couple projects coming up there and pretty badass. And like I say, I'm looking forward to working with the Static Vision guys and getting on that YouTube page and getting some of these builds documented and making an impression. So we want to thank everybody for watching us build this car. It's been a hell of a good time. So I think it's turned out really well, and glad everybody stuck around and watched the builds, and hopefully stick around and watch some of the other builds we got coming up. It's going to be pretty exciting stuff. So we'll see you soon. Thanks.